Hello, family. This is the Old School Traveler. I'm back to tell you about another city I went to. The name of the city is Helsinki, Finland. Helsinki, Finland. And I'm going to jump right to it. I was totally disappointed in the city. It's almost like when you go there, you go in and look at the Stepford Wives. Yeah, you see a lot of the same everything. And people brag about Finland, how happy people are there. It ain't Disney World. I didn't see not one damn smile. Not one. I seen just one person laughing the whole time. Yeah, it's kind of weird that you go to a city and everybody looks the same. Everybody acts the same. Now, it's not a city that you really got to worry about danger and walking at night and all that kind of stuff. No, it's just bland. It's just bland. It reminded me of when I was in the Ukraine. It reminds me of that. It's just a bland place. Nothing exciting about it. It seems like nothing goes on. People walk around the mall. You don't hear anything. You don't hear people talking to one another. They just walking together. It's boring as hell. Now, the one thing I can say about it is that the people they do put out good food, but it's not a variety. It seems like you're eating the same thing every day. It just seems, I think because they only eat what they grow. They only eat what they grow. They grow a lot of root-based vegetables. Yeah, don't look for no corn. They eat a lot of meat. They eat a lot of meat. Don't think about you're going to have a lot of bread to go with that meat. Now, you will have mashed potatoes and some other stuff. But as far as the city goes and the people, when you read things and you hear about the happiest city or the happiest country in the world, you think you're going to go to Disney World. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen there. No. And maybe because it's cold all the time. I guess if it's cold all the time, hell, I wouldn't laugh either. I mean, what's there to be happy about? And it's a city of about 800,000 to 1 million people. And it's not very crowded. There's one thing I did like about it. For a capital city, it's not very, very crowded at all. It's just an easygoing city that I don't know what they do for fun. It's no Disney World there. It's no, I guess they got an amusement park, but they walk a lot. And I'm good with that. They walk a lot. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's not handicap friendly. No. You got to walk there because you got steps and stairs everywhere. And the curbs are very, very high. And, in this video, I'm showing you some of the places I went to while I was there. And I didn't see anything that made it look like fun. Now, I did talk to a few people at the market, at the market by the dock. It's just, what do you do there? What do you do on weekends? What do you do on your days off? You may have the world's best medical system. And from what I hear, they got very, very, very good medical. Luckily, I never experienced it. But also the language is very, very difficult. I mean, I done been to about 80 different countries around the world, 80 to 100. And normally I can pick out certain words or I can hear things and I can know what they're talking about or at least get the key word out of that sentence. Not in Finland. Finland is a very difficult language. And there's only about 5 million people in the whole world who speaks it. So, it's not like if you don't speak it, it's going to affect you when you go to another country. No, not at all. Actually, it's not even worth learning the damn language. It's not worth learning that language. But, one of the things that when you go there too, they dress with a lot of layers. I mean, I know it's cold, but damn, don't they make one jacket good enough to keep you cool or keep you warm? Nah, they use layers. And the sun is not out very, very long. Not during the summer, because I went during the spring. No, not at all. The sun goes down very, very early. I'm talking about 4:30, 4 o'clock. It's gone. It's not coming up until about 9. But, it's a very, very clean city. Helsinki is very, very clean. I didn't see any trash anywhere. I didn't see people littering. I didn't see any of that. I didn't see none of that, which is kind of a big change from what I'm used to seeing in some major cities. Now, saying that, if you go there, The one thing I can tell you that's really in their favor, I stayed at the Marriott next to the bus station, or actually the train station. They have a great breakfast. I mean, they have a great breakfast. I mean, that's just the way it works there. They have a very, very, very good, good breakfast. But, when I seen people, one person I stopped, I asked a question to, and they understood English. If not, you use Google Translate or whatever you're doing. They didn't really know the city, and I was asking for a major landmark. I was asking for a major landmark, and this person didn't know. One thing I can say about Helsinki and Finland in general, if you use an Uber, you'll get confused because all the cab drivers are Uber drivers as well. So they'll show up and you thinking it's a cab, and when you order Uber, nope, it's the same person. Oh, it's very, very, very expensive. It's on the level of Switzerland. It costs a lot. I mean, matter of fact, it's more expensive than Switzerland. And they have restaurants everywhere, but not like some cities. Some cities downtown, they got a restaurant on every single block, and none of the restaurants are huge. None of them are huge, which is kind of cool if the owner is there. But most of them are very, very small. They're kind of like a mom and pop almost, but maybe a little bigger. But they stay crowded. Now, it's not a very diverse city at all. And I'm not talking about just the food. I'm talking about the type of people. You see a shitload of Chinese, and you see people who look like they haven't seen the sun in 400 years rather. Yeah, you see a lot of that. So get used to that. And it's not a city that welcomes foreigners very, very much. I was talking to some locals who live there. Well, not really, they're local now, but they came from other places, Africa, other parts of Europe. And I would talk to them, and they said none of the Nordic countries are very, very welcoming. And I found that to be kind of true in a lot of ways. So I was like, this is kind of true. They go about their business. They don't bother you, which is kind of cool. And they don't want to be bothered by you, which is kind of cool. But if you ever want to get help doing something or help in general, that's not the place to go. That's not the place you want to be at. But, the people in the hotel, very, very nice. But then again, they get paid to be nice to you. So I'm sure they're not nice, or they don't want to be bothered by you if they're not working. But, one thing I found out too now, Finland got a lot of water in the north part and the south part because Helsinki is on a port. Why in the hell they don't serve, or they don't have a lot of, let's say, they don't have a lot of water. And when I say water, they got all this water out of the faucet type deal. They don't really sell spring water, which is what I like. But saying that, it's a place that you go there if you going somewhere else. You don't go there to go there. You go there on, en route to somewhere else. That's kind of how Finland, that's kind of how I treated it. And, the people on the airport is very, very small in Helsinki. Airport is very, very small. Actually, I was kind of shocked how small it was, to be honest about it. Because I'm thinking, they got Finnair and some of these other places and stuff. And this is a major city in the Nordic countries. This is one of the third or fourth biggest city there. So I'm assuming that they got a lot of things in the airport that you would find in other cities who have major airports. But the airport is not really a major airport. But I like the fact that it's small and it's easy to get around. I did like that. You're not walking miles in a terminal. No, you do the whole thing in a quarter mile. You see every single terminal, every single gate. You see everything. And that was kind of cool because I don't like doing a lot of walking in airports, going between terminals. But, if you ever get a chance to go there, keep going up to Lapland. That's what I did. I went to Lapland, but I had to transit through Helsinki, catch a flight there to Helsinki, then catch another flight. But let me tell you something about Finland too. One of the Africans told me they find it very difficult to start their own businesses. They say it's very difficult, And almost everybody I seen that was African, even the educated ones, or at least they say they were educated, they was mostly in the medical or the service industry. They was that kind. I never saw one as a manager or with a suit and tie on. I never saw any of that kind of stuff. It made me wonder a little bit, but I never saw any of that. And one of the guys I talked to, African, he said he was there because his wife went to medical school. She was a nurse, and she decided to stay after she graduated. He said she decided to stay. But he said that the day he retired, he's going back to Africa. That says a damn lot, because I don't know too many people who are going back to Africa. Most people I know escape and ain't going back no matter what the hell you do. So it's kind of a weird situation as far as foreigners goes. I did run across one American who lived there because her boyfriend was from Finland. I don't know what university she went to, but probably somewhere in Minnesota. But anyway, she said that she enjoyed it, and she said it is cold most of the year, and she said so there's not a lot of joy, things to do, and they go to bars a lot. But then again, she was in her early 30s, maybe 35 or whatever have you. But she said, a lot of people would go to the bar scene. And I'm like, at those prices, there's no way in hell. And she said, you don't really go to the bars to drink there. You go just to mingle with your friends. Because it's not a cheap country. Nothing about that place is cheap at all, even fast food. And you can't tell me everything's imported, because you can damn near drive from Norway, Sweden, and other places. But you're going to pay some money. The hotel prices were not bad. I think I paid like $250 a night, $300 a night, and I was expecting really a lot more than that. But it was not a bad deal, because I paid half that price in Switzerland, but I paid twice that price for everything else in Switzerland. But if you get a chance, go during the wintertime, because I'm gonna be honest about it, the winter and the summer ain't a lot of difference. It's cold as hell, both of them. It's summer and winter, so it ain't a lot of difference when you go. You're not gonna be warm. But when it's 50 degrees there, which I never saw, I heard it's hot as hell. But I saw a lot of 30 degrees, and at night it's cold as hell. At night it's just freezing at night when you're there. Yep. It's gonna, And the other weird thing too is that in the hotels, the front desk or whomever, they kind of manage the temperature in all the rooms. Because I kept cranking mine up, my temperature stayed the same, and I was kind of like, okay, this ain't working for me. My temperature stayed the same, even though the dial moved. No, the temperature stayed the same. But if you go to Helsinki, they got a couple of things in the suburbs that's kind of cool. But one thing they do like to do, though, they do like to shop. I know that because I've seen a lot of malls. I've seen 7 to 8 malls, not huge malls, but they were good-sized malls. They were good-sized malls for a city of that size. And they always had a crowd. So I was kind of like, okay, they got a crowd here. People, I guess in some parts of Europe, malls are the rage. Everybody wants to go to the mall, hang out, do what they're going to do in the mall. But it's not a lot to say about Helsinki. They do have some decent restaurants, but like I said, they all eat this. It seems like the menu is not very big in any restaurant you go to. Matter of fact, I went to one that only had 3 things on the menu. Now, I ordered reindeer, and reindeer was not bad, but they had reindeer sausages for breakfast quite a bit, and that's not me. I ate the reindeer, and reindeer, maybe it's the way they cook it, it's bland, very, very bland. I'm like, okay, this country ain't got no spices, because I know I can dress up reindeer sausages better than what they did. But every place I went to eat, they had decent coffee. Now, I don't drink coffee, but my wife said, hey, it's not bad. The hot chocolate, yeah, I think that my problem is I have a price point for everything I buy in life. I have a price point. And the price point for a lot of things just exceeded what I even thought they were going to be. And, you know, I'm not a budget traveler, but at the same time, I don't want to spend a lot of money, you know, on something that don't require a lot of money, you know. So I'm not that guy who says, okay, I want hot chocolate, and that hot chocolate is going to cost me, you know, $8. And I know Nestle, you know, hot chocolate only costs about 25 cents a pack, because I don't need fancy or boutique hot chocolate. I'm just trying to stay warm. But, you know, I dress for the weather, and I never really got cold. You know, even though it was in the 30s, you know, and Helsinki, the wind do come off the water. And you go to the port, you are going to notice that quick as hell. You know, I did Uber around quite a bit. And Uber there, it's not too bad of a price, but it's more than it's about, the Uber price is about what you pay in the States for Uber for the same distance and everything, you know. But you got a lot of taxis around the train station. And like I said, I stayed by the train station, and you got a lot of taxis and stuff. So it was always easy. But here's the funny part. When you get an Uber in some places, Uber can't come to where you at. You got to go to the meeting point, because they have rules that they only want legit taxis in certain tourist areas. So only the taxis can pick you up. If that guy says, I'm an Uber and I'm a taxi, he's going to charge you the taxi rate. And Uber is a little bit cheaper, but he's not going to charge you that rate. But Uber never sent me to where the taxis were. Even though I had the same guy 2 days in a row as an Uber. He was a taxi guy. I walked right past him going to the meeting point for the Uber drivers. So that was kind of odd. But one of the guys told me too, he said, in order to be an Uber driver, you got to take the taxi test. That's why they are one and the same. So it's one test for both of them. So, you know, if he can get more money being a taxi driver, why would he not do that? You know, but a lot of the minorities there, not the Chinese, most of them look like they were students. They look fairly young. So, and they got a bunch of them. They got a few Africans, and most of them are sports oriented, or they are some kind of service. They're fixing light poles. They're driving Uber. You know, they are cooks in restaurants. They are people who clean their restaurants, bathrooms and stuff. I saw a lot of that, of minorities. I saw a lot of that. And, you know, it is what it is, you know. But that is my take on Helsinki. And my whole thing is, you know, it's not a city that if you got nothing, you can make it. No, you got to have something to get started there. It's not like a lot of Western places that you're going to go visit where you can do a little, no food trucks. I didn't see any kiosks on the street selling food. I saw none of that. That's why I said it was kind of bland. The closest it came was to like a flea market type environment along the port. That's about all I seen. And, you know, the 5,000 malls, but the people there were very, very, very boring. They looked like Borgs almost. They acted like Borgs and Stepford wives. It just was not that warm, fuzzy feeling. It just don't give you that. And like I said, maybe because it's cold, you know, every damn day. But this is the Old School Traveler giving you his take on Helsinki, Finland. Peace out.